This isn't chocolate. I said that after the first bite, then kept eating. Why? Because it snapped and tempered like the real thing, yet finished with an earthy, coffee-like aftertaste that wouldn't pass with a purist. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Today, I'm walking you through the cocoa-free movement, how brands mimic fermentation and roasting using cereals and legumes, what regulators actually require to call something chocolate, and why rising cocoa prices and deforestation are pushing companies toward flavor coatings. Stick around to learn how to decode labels and decide if a legume-based bar earns space in your pantry or your protest. It looks like chocolate, it snaps like chocolate. The label says cocoa, so why can't the people who write the rules call it chocolate? Because the word isn't vibes. It's a legal category with thresholds that your bar has to clear, and lately, a lot of your favorites are tripping over the bar. Let's set the terms. Cacao is the raw identity, the bean and what you press out of it. Cocoa is what happens after you process it into powder or mass. Chocolate is the finished product built from those parts, with minimum levels of cocoa solids and cocoa butter. If those levels slip, the name comes off. At the register, that means you might pay chocolate prices for something that, by law, isn't. Brands know you hate price hikes, so they dodge. They swap out expensive cocoa butter for cheaper fats, tweak the solids, and keep the wrapper familiar. One day you've got chocolate. The next it's chocolate flavor coating. Same font, same colors, different product. No fanfare, just a quiet downgrade. In the UK and EU, the math is not vague. Dark needs at least 35% cocoa in total, with floors for both butter and non-fat solids. Milk has its own minimums. White must carry enough cocoa butter to count. Fall short, and you lose the word. Swap in palm, coconut, or shea beyond narrow limits, and you've crossed into coating, not chocolate. The texture tells on them. The melt slows, the flavor thins. Your tongue notices before your eyes do. Here's where the transatlantic split matters. In the US, compound chocolate is the catch-all that lets vegetable fat stand in for cocoa butter more freely. In the EU and UK, stricter limits apply, and once you lean too hard on those cheaper fats, it's not chocolate anymore. That's how a bar you've bought for years can change status overnight. No recall, no scandal, just a regulatory line you weren't told about. Watch the language creep on legacy snacks. Chocolate-coated biscuit becomes chocolate flavor coating with cocoa mass. That one extra word, flavor, signals a swap you feel in the bite. Less snap, a waxy finish. Heat stability improves for warehouse life, but you lose the clean melt that carries aroma to your nose. You're not misreading the label. The label is telling you the downgrade in code. Let's pull back the curtain on the fats. Industry uses 3 buckets: cocoa butter equivalents, replacers, and substitutes. Equivalents try to match cocoa butter's crystal behavior in tempering. Replacers get you part way, but the crystallization is off. Substitutes ignore the cocoa butter playbook entirely. That's why the bar shatters instead of snapping, or lingers as a film on your tongue. Flavor release runs on fat structure. Change the structure, change the taste. And we're not done. A new class of makers skips cacao altogether and copies the steps: ferment, roast, blend, with grains and legumes. They can temper, they can shine, they can bake. But if there's no cacao, the name game gets even messier because the process looks right while the ingredient list breaks the definition. Why the stealthy shift? Cocoa prices exploded on weak harvests in West Africa. Supply shocks hit, costs spike, and companies pick the quietest option: reformulate. This is a race to the bottom that hides in small print. Your only shield is the back panel. Red for cocoa mass near the top, cocoa butter actually present, and watch for flavor coating. That phrase is the kill switch for quality. Now let's pull back the curtain on cocoa-free bars that claim the chocolate experience, just without the cacao. If a bar tempers, shines, and even bakes like chocolate, does your tongue forgive the roasted, coffee-like aftertaste? That's the trade you face with the new bean-free crowd. Your eyes and hands say chocolate. your palate throws a flag. WNWN is the headline act here. They don't touch cacao, they copy the steps instead. Ferment, roast, grind, using cereals and legumes to build the same chemistry and function. The goal is blunt. Replicate structure first, then chase flavor. And on structure, they land more hits than misses. You get a clean snap, a glossy break, a melt curve that doesn't collapse into wax. But flavor is where the facade cracks. The aroma leans roasty and a little earthy. On the tongue, it starts sweet, then veers into coffee and damp grain notes, especially in the milk-style bars. The aftertaste lingers longer than you expect, and not in a good way. In plain applications, no nuts, no salt. There's nowhere for that finish to hide. You're left with almost chocolate, which is a tough sell at real chocolate prices. Here's why your senses split. Real chocolate gets its complexity from two engines. First, fermentation loads the beans with acids and precursors. Second, roasting kicks off Maillard reactions, building hundreds of volatiles: nutty, fruity, caramel. Cocoa butter then acts like a delivery system. It melts near body temperature, floods aroma up your retronasal pathway, and leaves clean. Swap in plant fats and the release pattern changes. Different crystal forms, different melt. Different timing, so even if you match the steps, the payload isn't the same, and the volatiles from legume and cereal ferments skew toward those coffee earth tones your brain tags as off target. In the kitchen, these bars behave better than you'd expect. They temper. They set hard with a good sheen. They hold structure in a ganache or a glaze without separating into greasy puddles. For home baking, that reliability matters. But heat exposes the seams. The roasted, earthy notes get louder at oven temps, and the finish hangs around in cookies and brownies. Instead of a cocoa bloom of aroma, you get a darker, flatter echo that won't lift other flavors. Now the ethics. This is where the marketing lands its strongest punch. Cocoa has a track record: deforestation in West Africa and entrenched child labor. Even brands that push slavery-free are still fighting entrenched realities and sprawling supply chains. So Bean-Free pitches itself as the clean break. No cacao, no mess. But here's where it gets tricky. You still need crops, cereals, legumes, oils. You still need processing, fermentation tanks, roasters, energy. Without a full life cycle analysis on the alt ingredients and the processing load, you can't claim a clean win. You might be shifting pressure from forest to farmland and factories. Different map, same race to the bottom. Think of it like swapping the engine in a classic car. You can match torque and top speed on paper. On the road, the timing, the vibration, the throttle response, everything feels slightly off. Chocolate is the same. Without cacao's polyphenols and the cocoa butter matrix, those legume and cereal ferments create a different suite of volatiles. That's the coffee earth echo your palate catches and won't let go. It's not spoilage. It's chemistry. So where do you land? If you want structure, shine, and a cleaner supply story, these bars deliver enough function to pass in a recipe. If you chase flavor fidelity, they stall in the final yards. You either accept good enough for baking, or you hold the line on taste and keep reading labels like your wallet depends on it. Either way, the decision sits with you, not the front-of-pack claims. So, are you the purist, the pragmatist, or the advocate who reads every label? You can decouple the process, but not the soul. Flavor fidelity is the last gatekeeper. If it doesn't taste like chocolate, it isn't. Simple. Now, do your part. Read the back panel. If you see flavor coating or vegetable fats replacing cocoa butter, call it what it is. Tell me in the comments if you'll trade taste for traceability, or if that's diet theater dressed as ethics. The supply picture stays volatile, so brands will keep testing your limits. You don't have to play along. Subscribe if you want labels decoded and loopholes exposed. Next time, we test which bars still earn the word chocolate.